Ooh, fancy. Thank you for coming. Thank you to everyone who's registered for these webinars. This is the last of the virtual part of this series that we've put together with the Glass Center and the CBA. We want to do a quick shout out to them. They have been wonderful partners of ours for years, more than we can count quickly. And they've been really supportive of us in our pursuit to support Pittsburgh's greater creative community, because that's really what we're all about. So tonight is an info session about the upcoming photo sessions that we have. We have done photo sessions like these before, both at the Glass Center and at this with the CBA at their Sarah Campbell Enterprise Center and at a couple of other locations over time. We've never done an info session like this to sort of inform and help people get a sense of what they're walking into ahead of time. So this is both an experiment and something that we think is a good idea based on the feedback that we've gotten recently.
We've been answering questions, some common questions. So we just kind of want to put this in a form so that we can answer these one time and people can kind of get those answers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So some of you know us, but for the sake of the recording, we'll just do our quick spiel. I'm Sam. This is Nathan.
Hi.
We are Porter Loves. Porter and Jeannie are our legally silent partners, but not actually silent. So you will probably hear them. You might even see them. They demand attention. But we are artists. We grew up creatively as artists and started our business almost 10 years ago. In October, we celebrate our 10th anniversary with the idea in mind that we wanted to use the creative talents that we have to help uplift and support other artists and creatives in the community, doing some of the things that they either can't do, don't want to do, don't have time to do, etc. And they, want to work with a partner to outsource, and we're big fans of outsourcing. Oh, here comes Porter.
I get him to be quiet.
So we're gonna kick over to the agenda, and Nate is gonna take over. If you want me to click while you're holding him, just
Sure.
let me know.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, so I kind of always think of that scene from Spaceballs where they're like reviewing the movie footage during the movie, and they're like, "When is now?" Like, so this is the agenda. We're talking about the agenda now. We went over the introduction, who we are. Now we're going over the agenda so that everyone's on the same page. What we're doing here, you too. And then we're gonna go over what are the Porter Loves reduced rate sessions. And then we're gonna go into our photo session resources kit, something we put together with the CBA a while back. Then we have some frequently asked questions that we get a lot of times, so we can get those out of the way first. And then we'll turn it over to Q&A, folks that might have stuff in the chat, or if something comes to mind during the presentation, feel free to ask, or if it's something else and beyond the scope, we'll see what we have time for. So moving on.
You want more of them? Maybe
Sorry,
you can do your own clicking now.
apologies there.
So yeah, he's like, I'm the CEO.
Okay.
Sorry.
So what are the Porter Loves reduced rate photo sessions? Basically, this is something we do 2 to 3 times a year. We partner with, like we said, the CBA for J Capital, Pittsburgh Glass Center, and occasionally other organizations we've done this with. Basically, these are a really easy way to kind of get a sense of working with us as photographers, and then getting some professional photos of your work done at a very low rate. I don't really need to read this slide here because we're going to be emailing these slides out, so I don't need to go through all of these bullet points. You can kind of read these on the screen and then afterwards as well. Last fall, we worked with the CBA to put together a resources toolkit. This is meant to make it easier to understand what you're getting into when you book one of these sessions with us. Because they're limited in time, limited in scope, people kind of give us, or wonder like, what kind of does that mean exactly? We want to make it easier for folks to get as much as they can out of this, given the scope and the parameters involved with what we're doing here. Like I said, don't worry too much about taking notes. We can email you the slides after the fact. And like the woman said, the recording is in progress, so you can always hear that too. So yeah, so why we're doing this is basically we used to send emails that would list all the things that people would need to know as far as like parking near the building and how to bring your stuff and the basic nitty gritty details of what it's like to get from point A to point B and how all the photos go and what do I say and what do I do and what do I wear, and those sorts of things. But nobody would read a very long email because it's a lot of information. And I understand that. I'm a reader, but still like a big email comes in and it's just too much. So some people weren't reading that, whether because it's just a wall of text or because we weren't communicating clearly. Sometimes people just learn differently or see things differently. So we decided to try to meet people where they were better as best we could. So the result of the misunderstandings of sort of like, not reading all that text or not getting in their information is that folks would show up and they weren't aware of certain things. And then that would mean that they'd either have to spend time to either clean their stuff because they didn't at home, or various things that would add up to either less time that they were able to take photos with me, or that I was able to get fewer photos, or that there was some reason they couldn't get, all of their photos or all their pieces shot in the given time span. And a lot of that times I would react to that like, wow, I sent this email and, they didn't read it. Well, people just don't read emails sometimes. So we put together some other resources that we hope will make it easier for people to understand, including a PDF that can show things graphically. There is some text there, but it's broken up in a very, nice visual format so that hopefully it's easier to digest and understand. We've also made a few videos to kind of walk you through the process, various aspects of working with us. We know that people process information differently, so we want to just be respectful of that and try to meet people where they are. I will say that although what we're talking about here is specific to these reduced rate sessions at the Sarah. Oh,
hey, he's fine.
Sorry. These are specific to the Enterprise Center at the Susquehanna building. Some of the stuff that we will be talking about may apply to other situations like full sessions or other locations.
Or even not working with us.
Or even not working with us.
There's valuable information here about how to show up for a photo session, how to be prepared.
Right, exactly.
Even if you're not working with us.
Yeah, exactly. So we have a video here, so we can have you watch this. It's about 6 minutes long. There's a weird cut at the beginning that cuts out us introducing ourselves because I think we just covered that back in the agenda. So
you can hit play on that screen
right here. Okay.
Yeah. Oh.
Hi, I'm Sam.
And I'm Nathan.
Oh.
We're the team behind Porter Loves. We're artists supporting local artists and creative small business owners throughout the greater Pittsburgh region.
This video is going to go through the basic steps of what you can expect from a photo shoot with Porter Loves at the Enterprise Center. We've broken it up into before the shoot, the day of the shoot, and after the shoot.
The very first step is to visit the scheduling link to book your appointment time.
After you schedule your photography appointment, you will receive a confirmation email. Next, before the day of the shoot, you will be emailed some resources with information about what to expect and how to prepare. In this video.
Finally, you'll receive an email reminder of your time, location, and other details about 24 hours prior to your appointment time.
Let's move on to the day of the shoot.
On the day of the shoot, you'll arrive at 7800 Susquehanna Street. As you can see, you can't miss it. There is a sizable parking lot and plenty of on-street parking. You want to enter through the door on Susquehanna Street, not the entrance accessible from the parking lot. As you walk along the sidewalk here, seeing Nathan's little blue car will confirm that you are in the right spot.
Please note that this entrance requires bringing your items and yourself up several steps. Please let us know if we can do something to accommodate you if these steps present a barrier. At the top of these first steps, hit the buzzer on the far right side of the door. When you hear a heavy click, that means we have unlocked the door and you can come on in.
Inside, there are a few more steps up to the Sarah B. Campbell Enterprise Center lobby. To the left are a few chairs where you can hang out if you arrive early or need to take a call during your session. To the right is an open doorway into the space where your photo session will happen, and Nathan will be there to greet you.
A few quick things to note about the Enterprise Center. The bathrooms are exactly opposite the doors to our makeshift studio. There is a small but well-appointed kitchen with a coffee maker, sink, a few dishes, a microwave, and a refrigerator. The main space where we set up our photography studio is spacious to allow for physical distancing with several chairs and tables. Hand sanitizer and masks are available if you don't have your own.
Depending on the type of session you have booked, it may take more than one trip to bring all your stuff in. That's no problem at all. Once you have everything you need inside, it's time to unpack it all so Nathan can get a good sense of what he's working with. This time presents an excellent opportunity to point out special features or details you would like to see highlighted in the photos, to talk about your process, your brand, and if there's anything else in particular you'd like to see in the final images. We love art and artists, and therefore learning about the ins and outs of how you make your stuff is exciting for us. But also, the more information Nathan has about your work, the better job he can do making your work sing in a photograph.
Once I start shooting, you can be involved in the process or check out for a bit. I always show you at least an initial shot on the back of the camera so you get a sense of the lighting setup and angles. It's important to note that the LCD screen on the back of the camera is not the same as what you'll see in your final images on a proper computer screen. You can absolutely ask for adjustments to the setup when you see these images if they aren't hitting the mark for you. Just remember that them appearing a bit grayed out is normal.
Once the general setup looks good, we've had folks hang in the lobby catching up on emails, sit in the room and chat, or stay super engaged in the details of the photography process. All of the above are A-okay. Once all items you've brought have been photographed or your time slot has finished, it's time to pack up. Nathan will reiterate the timeline, how you'll receive a digital gallery of your photos 3 weeks from today, and how you are welcome to email us if you have any questions. If you have any final questions before you leave, this is a great time to ask them. Once your stuff is packed up, you'll head out the door the same way you came in.
Once the shoot is complete, most of what happens is on our end. I transfer all of your image files from the camera's memory card to my computer in our home office and immediately back up those files. We take the security of your data very seriously.
He works hard in the photo shoot process to get as close to the final product as possible in camera, but will occasionally do some light color correction. Most commonly, his editing consists of cropping. Once he's done doing whatever processing is necessary, he will export high-resolution JPEGs and place them in an online gallery specifically for you.
You will receive an email when your gallery is ready. The online gallery allows you to browse, share, mark favorites, and download your photos. The gallery functions well on both a desktop computer and a mobile device. It's important to note that on a mobile, you can easily download images one by one, but if you want to download the full set at one time, you will need to do that on a real computer.
The email with your gallery link will cover this, but we want to reiterate how important it is that you download your photos to a safe place ASAP. Your online gallery is only guaranteed to be available for 30 days. And while we will hold a backup of your images for at least a year, beyond that, you have to be the top steward of your data.
Alrighty. And
That's not what we want.
that's not what we want.
This, here we go.
There we go. So here is the, let me recatch my where. So this is the graphic PDF of what we were talking about before. I'm not going to go into this piece in too much detail. We just want to show that if watching a video like we did just for the last 6 minutes isn't your jam, or you want something you can refer to as the shoot approaches, we've created a document that has most of the info from the video. It's so pretty. I love the greens and stuff. This is the how to prepare document. It's a document, not a video. Again, we'll send links to all these things out, so you don't have to, really pixel peep at these right now. But over the years, we have encountered, shall we say, a range of preparedness. Sometimes folks come and they know exactly what lighting, what angles, which pieces. They have a very tight sort of set of images that they're going for. And other times people bring a tote and it's just a lot of different random or seemingly random things. And they don't really know what they want taken photos of, if they want them in groups. They really haven't thought out what they want the end product to be. So some of this information hopefully will address that, so that hopefully, it help you prepare for the shoot so that you get the most out of the session in the limited time. A lot of times people will say like, oh, well, it's only 20 minutes and, how can you do so much or so, it's not a lot of time. But I say, you can get a lot done if you have a plan and you work very quickly and very concisely. And again, this affects the results that you get, and a lot of times people's satisfaction. A lot of times people will tell us that they weren't sure about how long that they would have or how long certain things would take, and in hindsight they had considered, well, maybe they would have done something differently, and they figured, well, it's kind of a waste of money. But again, these are reduced rates, so it's a lower price point, lower entry cost, to kind of try out new things perhaps. But also, if you're prepared, you can get a lot of photos in a very short time span. I do have a client that I think I got 60 products because they were really small and they were just literally like.
In a 25-minute session?
I don't know if it was 60. It was 60 delivered photos because it was like details of like 20 of the pieces. I think it was like 40. It was 40 pieces, and it was one of those times where we didn't have a limit on, and I was just kind of like, well, let's just see how much we can get done. And she had prepared, a lot of things. But if at any point I decided like that's the last piece, she would have been fine with that, and there'd been no problem. So again, to get this information, we reached out to some folks. I said again, I don't remember. We reached out to some folks who have done these sessions to kind of get their perspective on what works for them, what doesn't work for them. How do they go about getting together a game plan? Do they have inspiration for what they want the photos to look like ultimately? Or if perhaps for like one of our styling sessions, we recommend a lot of thought ahead of time so that you are bringing creative props that fit with your brand or your, the style that you want to convey, and that we use them in a smart way on set. Should I move on here?
Sure.
Yeah. So here we go. We have some frequently asked questions. These usually have been asked of us at least 3 to 4 dozen times sometimes. Yes, can you stop? So we're gonna go through these here. So how is this different than a full session? Other than obviously the price tag. People look at the price tag and say, well, how is this different if I'm only paying this much for this? Well, the reason is that a full session is a lot longer. They can happen anywhere and basically anytime that was mutually agreed upon. And it's very highly customizable to exactly what you're looking for. Perhaps in another of these sessions, you may have seen some photos with very dark black backgrounds, and I don't do that very commonly at the reduced rate sessions, because one, not a lot of people want that dark black look, but for those who do, they get those full sessions because they know that that's a unique kind of lighting scheme. And I think some of those are like unique to the particular artist's work. Right? Yeah. So people ask, what if they bring more than 7 pieces to photograph? We usually say in our literature, 3 to 7 pieces is a range. And this is such a hard question to answer, like how many pieces can you photograph in a given time span? It kind of depends, like how quickly do you want to do it? Do you just need one photo? Do you need multiple angles? Do you need detail shots? All of these things kind of add up. Whereas, one photo that takes 30 seconds to shoot, if you need that done twice to every one of 7 pieces, that time adds up there. So I just want people to be cognizant of that, so that sometimes, you can get a very concise number of photos in the session, still represent your pieces without, exhaustively documenting it, and you're only documenting maybe one piece. So if you bring more than 7 pieces and we move through them and we're able to bang out those 7 pieces and you have more with you, it's kind of a game day's decision. Like if I have time, we can go through those and get as many as we can in the given time span, but again, without feeling rushed, because we want to present quality images. We're not just trying to do a certain number. So then we do get asked if it's okay if people bring their kids. And ultimately, whether or not you bring your kids is up to the client, because they're your kids. I love kids. I love having them around, but sometimes they can be a distracting element, even in good ways. Even the most well-behaved children sometimes, if they're asking questions or they're involved in the process, or the parents are kind of dealing with them, that can kind of take up your attention or take up some time. If you're okay with that, I know some people will have sort of a very clear idea, or they'll have it sort of, they'll let me know what they're looking for. They hand me the stuff, they can take care of the kids, and I can just do the photography, hand them their stuff back, and it's not a huge deal. But again, it's kind of what, how your kids best and how you want to deal with them or not during a session.
And we fully recognize that like school gets canceled on random days for various reasons, for like
yes,
in service, whatever days, and snow and pandemic and whatever. And childcare is just one of the many crises in this country.
Exactly. So sometimes if the question in your mind is, do I have to go pick up my kid and then I have this photo thing, do I not go to this photo thing because I have my kid with me? The answer is, if you can and you'd like to bring your kid, let's try. Yeah. It's worth a try. So a lot of people ask us, can we do these on a different day? Because the day that we've chosen doesn't work for everyone. I get that. I mean, we do our best to try to figure out a time that works. We know that there's sort of, cycles, ebbs and flows of people needing stuff for submissions. People get kind of creative juices flowing different times a year. And these are sort of the reason that we do the 2 or 3 times a year is because we've done them more frequently and had fewer people turn out. So it's not really worth everyone's kind of, it's not really worth our time. Then other times we are overloaded because everyone's trying to get their photos done for a particular reason or a particular show entry that they're trying to, get to. We're also coordinating these with several partners. Like we said before, we're coordinating with Pittsburgh Glass Center and the CBA, using their locations many times. Sometimes their facilities managers or their folks are involved. So there's moving parts that we have to be attentive to. So the short answer is, no, we can't do the reduced rates on some other session, because also you're talking about a custom session because you're the only person that's then on that time. These are designed so that I set up one time, basically in the morning, do, a whole list of clients throughout the day, and then, close down at the end. And that costed me being there the whole day is spread out among many clients, which brings the cost down. Doing them on a different day means it's a full session, or it has to be a full session because I have to cover my time to set everything up, come to the location and all that. And it's simply unfeasible for us to offer the reduced rate for those for one-offs. And if you find that you keep missing the date, I know I've had a client that's tried to sign up for various things multiple times and it just doesn't work out, and it's good. And I totally get it. But if you find yourself always thinking like, oh, I just wish I had 6 more weeks to do this or whatever, like when we send out a survey, please respond to the survey so that we then have that extra point of information to know that like there's this person that really wants to book with us, but just doesn't work out. So,
or even when we don't, if we're not, because we're not sending out a survey like more than once or twice a year, if we're not sending out a survey, but you're just like, man, Wednesdays are the best day for me. Like, shoot us an email and let us know. Cause like we take that information into account, and this whole series of webinars and the shoots coming up were all based off of the survey data that we gathered back in February.
Yeah.
We had like 30 or 40 local makers respond to. So we basically, we're here for you. We want you to be successful. We're doing this so that, we can help you. So let us know, what works best for you, and we will do our best to make that work.
Right. And that brings us to new questions that people may have come up with during our presentation or in the chat. So let me.
I'm gonna stop sharing.
Oh yeah, stop sharing here. Stop sharing. So you can probably see us a lot bigger now.
And yeah, if anybody wants
Do we have
to
any? We don't have the chat. Okay.
say anything in that, pop a question into the chat or come off mute and let us know if you have a question about these sessions, about working with us, about whatever else.
They're not allowed to unmute, so allow them to unmute themselves.
Okay.
So yeah, if you want to
You're
come
now
off,
allowed to unmute
you're now allowed to unmute
yourself.
yourself. So if anyone has questions, about the reduced rate sessions, preferably, or other things,
And
yeah.
Well, I need to bring my own display stands for jewelry. Basically, we generally
highly
encourage people
recommend it
to.
too.
We
Yeah.
have a very small selection of some stands that we bring to these days that we can, but we don't really tell people that we have them. We just have them as sort of like a backup.
And there's two things about that come to mind, is that having them, yes, I have some, but more importantly, B, is that they should be in the style that you want for your items, jewelry, so in case anybody is not seeing the chat, I'm sorry, I just assumed that people were looking in the chat here, but somebody asked, do I need to bring my own display stands for jewelry? And my answer to that is yes, I would highly recommend that for jewelry, not just to just the function of displaying it, but also that you bring something that's in the style, that you want to, I know some people have they've got their displays for, shows or whatever, and they photograph their stuff with those. And if you don't have those kinds of things, then it can be a challenge to kind of figure out how best to, how best to, but in terms of the flow of the day when somebody comes in, if I have to figure out how to rig it, it takes a lot of time to do that. Where if somebody has that kind of thought out ahead of time, here, this is ready to go.
He's fine.
This is ready to go. We could just photograph it and roll on through. So
yeah.
I hope that answers the question. And I want and thinking also beyond just jewelry too, because Drew does amazing jewelry. Not to discount her stuff at all, but other artists also have varying sizes sculptures, and I've had some conversations with people who make their own stands or need to get stands made for their artwork, and there's a lot of hemming and hawing. Do I need this? Should I do this? Da, 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 da. My advice is make a stand, or have somebody make a stand that knows what they're doing. make it very sturdy, like put a lot of thought and effort into it, because you've put a lot of thought and effort into what you're putting on it. And I think of it kind of like, in photography terms, like a tripod. Like, do not, like, this was drilled into my head, do not put an expensive camera on a cheap tripod, because you lose the expensive camera and the cheap tripod was never good to have in the first place. So yeah, so get really good stands, because your work deserves it. And that sounds cliche, but like, it's true. You put a lot of time and effort into, whatever you're putting on the stand, jewelry, shawls, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. So another question that Morgan plopped in the chat, any suggestions for where to get ideas for displaying your products? That's a good question.
Yeah, I think in that document where we asked folks like where they get inspiration, not necessarily for display items, but just for inspiration for the photo aesthetic or how they want to style stuff, they you'll see that they kind of said like the sort of classic 5 things, I think, where it was like Google, Pinterest, Instagram, and like other things. But I think one of the way, like, in addition to obviously like looking at maybe relevant hashtags in Instagram or whatever, and like finding people who just like looking at what other folks are doing, not in a copycat kind of way, just in a finding an inspiration kind of way, looking at the websites and catalogs of companies that make like display materials. I'm trying to think of an example. Like, I know for like there's it's like Rio Grande is like that catalog for jewelry artists that has all the findings and fastenings and everything.
Yeah.
There are other people out there that like that sort of their whole thing is creating booth displays or photo displays or whatever, and sort of looking through what they have to offer and saying like, how would I use that? And they probably have example images of how they use it or how their clients have used it is one way. And then the other thing is honestly to like look around your house and think outside the box, because some of the most interesting sort of setup displays that we've seen is like someone was like, I found these like weird wood blocks in my basement that I never would have thought to do anything with. But then like one day I kind of looked at them sideways and I painted them black, and they came in and they had these like little small black different height pedestals for their jewelry, essentially to shoot this little grouping.
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
And it came out like just like really amazing, and it was super cheap, and it looked like these things were, she could have paid hundreds of dollars for them, and she like pulled them out of her basement.
Dollars, like for the paint. Yeah, it was
so but also I the one caveat I'll say to that with respect to like thinking outside the box is like, think outside the box, but like still within your brand identity. Because you remember what we talked about with the types of photography back in our first webinar is that, just because you're styling images doesn't mean that you're throwing anything that looks cute or cool with your work. And so, we talked, it's like, don't just put your earrings on a teacup because like that's trendy. Like, unless there's some reasonable inspiration there that actually connects to your work, like you want to still be thinking about the identity of your brand and what you want to be accomplishing. So this other question is, do you shoot with models? We do. We not within the context of these reduced rate sessions right now. When we did the survey of what people wanted most this coming spring, the straightforward and styled photos came up as the number one and number 2 needs within the community. But you are always welcome to talk to us about booking a full session. and connecting with a model, we can do that. The caveat there is that it increased costs because we need to pay a model.
Yeah.
And we also need to, in our new environment, take consideration for COVID things, but we can,
Yeah.
that's all personalized and we can address that. But so the answer is like, yes, not in these reduced rate sessions that are coming up later in May. It's totally possible that we will
could do something like
a
that in the
modeled
future.
reduced rate session in the
Yeah.
future. I'm going to go ahead and shoot for the stars and say that it's going to probably be when we are further out of the pandemic situation, just for safety, just for everyone's safety. So yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And that, yeah. I'd love to shoot with models more.
Yeah, I mean, it's great for things that are wearable or things that,
Yeah.
like we talked about, holding a mug or jewelry or
Right,
with a bag
right.
over the shoulder, like different
Yeah, and depending on
items.
where that's done, that can kind of blend softly into like branding, like lifestyle photography
Right,
or
yeah,
whatever.
and if it's in,
But
yeah,
that's well beyond the scope of these, like we're talking about these reduced rate sessions. That would be like a full session that would incur our normal fees, which are on our website.
and sliding scale. I
and
just
yeah,
just to
we do have a
reiterate,
sliding scale. So like not only do we have the reduced rate sessions, but our so-called normal rate has a sliding scale to hopefully make it a little more accessible for folks. And those sessions are, thank you. And those sessions are, designed to be much more customizable. There's a lot more discussion about like what we're accomplishing, how we're going to go about it, all the
Right.
considerations, trying to get everybody on the same page that's involved, rather than like bringing, a tote of just a few items, popping it down and taking some photos.
well, I don't want to minimize
It's not
it's like-
that.
it's just like the quality of the images that you get out of these reduced rate sessions are excellent. Like many of the photos that we used as backgrounds and things for this presentation are results of those photo sessions. Like we and we can absolutely show a portfolio of images that were taken and to show that like it's not as though these reduced rate sessions are like a throwaway and they're not worth it. It's just that like the main thing is that they are shorter and they are far less customizable because like, for example, on a straightforward photo day, we're working with on like a sold out day, we're working with probably 12 people. And on a styled day, because those are a little bit longer to account for the time that it takes, we're working with maybe 8 or 9 people, and the setup is designed to be successful for all of them, no matter what type of work they're bringing.
Yeah.
And so that there has to be a certain level of generality to
it's
the
kinda-
approach.
It's not really least common denominator, but
No, but it's just like, it's like the thing that
the
will
thing that
work
work-
for the most people.
exactly. It's like the 80-20 kind of thing.
Yeah. And it works out really well, but then most of the time we have folks, I mean, we do have some people that just come back and they'll take a slot in these reduced rate sessions. Like whenever we offer them, they come, they get as many as they can and they go, and we don't ever see them for a full session, and that's fine. And then a lot of times people say, you know what, this is great, but I want to take it up a notch. I want to tweak things. I want to customize, and they'll book a full session.
And we've had people who will do the reduced rate sessions, like 1 or 2 or more times. They'll do a full session, and then they'll also do the reduced rates again later, and then come back and like sort of bounce back and forth because they know what they're looking for, and they know that it can be accomplished in the in the limitations that we have for these sessions.
Yeah, especially for like fine artists that are making like one thing at a time, like very detailed sculptures. A lot of times the thing for them is that they only have 1 or 2 pieces ready to photograph. They very rarely have amassed like a grouping. So what's really nice for them, they're like, I only have 1 piece that I need photographed. Well, then you can come and get great photos of it in 25 minutes for $55.
Right.
But again, like that's someone who really knows what they want to accomplish out of that. And we have also, just to like, we're not doing it this spring, but we've also done reduced rate headshot sessions before. Those are really quick. And if Katie was here, she would be talking about how important it is for you all to have a photo of yourself.
Yeah.
It's,
Get a
when
headshot.
publications or any opportunity comes up and they ask you for a photo of yourself, it's really, really important to have just like a really solid, great professional photo of yourself to send to them, rather than, scouring your Instagram or your Facebook selfies and trying to find something. Cause we can always tell, and it doesn't do you justice. It doesn't do you and your work justice in terms of how you want to present yourself.
Yeah.
So it seems, I haven't seen any other questions pop up, which is fine. We can wrap up if folks want to. Give it a couple more
Yeah.
seconds if folks have any
Yeah, if
last
you have any
minute
last minute
questions.
questions or one more question about
Ooh,
lighting. Yeah,
okay.
yeah, Drew. Also, if anyone wants to come off microphone or show their lovely face, that's fine too. No pressure, just saying. But yeah, go on, Drew.
Come off microphone.
Come on, what did I say?
Yeah, it's okay. But can you do any varied or funky lighting?
Within I have a medium, I would say a medium range of color options. I don't have like the full gamut of color filters. I do have lots of oranges, blues, some greens and some purples, but I don't have a lot of like the reds and that sort of thing. And yeah, I would say I would say that
I would say that
it'll cut into the time. It'll cut into the time.
It'll reduce the quantity of pieces that you can shoot.
Yeah. If it's something that we can like sort of play with for a few minutes and figure out, and then that works for all of the photos, then you're only like changing that one thing. But if it's changing it like multiple times, that kind of adds up and eats into the time.
Last year sometime when we were doing a styled session, someone messaged me in advance, and this like setup video of a styled image from some other brand, and she said, can we do something like this if I sign up for the next session? And I was looking at it, and it was like layers of things to create this really intricate visual, which was very cool for what the product was. And I said, if you have all that stuff to create that visual, and you're okay with this image basically being the only one that you get out of the session, then yes, like we can do it, but we can't do this 6 times,
Yeah.
So
it's kind of a balancing act. It's a balancing act between how much time does each photo take, how many photos do you take of the piece and from what angles and whatnot, versus
it ultimately comes down to prioritizing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like what's the top goal that you have and how are you going to get there? Right. We have one last question about the best way to book for the reduced rate session. So
that's a great question.
Yeah, you can find the links to those upcoming events at porterloves.com/events. We're also going to be sending a follow-up email to everyone registered for this that has the recording of this, including the video that we showed about how to go about scheduling and the PDF resources and everything that's in that toolkit, and links, of course, to the upcoming events and other resources. I think the toolkit plus like 1 or 2 other things that I know I had in my head before that I wanted to send to people, but I can't really remember them right now.
Yeah.
But essentially, like if you go to porterloves.com/events, you will see the upcoming sessions. You can click through there. Then there's the descriptions and information and directions on how to book.
Right. And also the partners that we were working with, they will share on their social media platforms links to that. So, the Bridgeway Capitals, the CBA, Creative Business Accelerator, right?
Mhm.
Creative Business Accelerator. And of course, our friends at the Pittsburgh Glass Center, who Morgan is here. She works, I don't know if she's representing them, but we love the Glass Center.
She's a PGCer and an artist. It's all,
Yeah.
like all of us. It's like we work for things and then we also make things. So, but yeah, that seems like a wrap. And like, I mean, we are super accessible. At the end of the video, I think it said like, got questions, hello@porterloves.com.
Yeah,
Like,
something random that we haven't covered here.
yeah.
that-
And you're just like, what about this?
Yeah.
And if you come up with a question later, like we're totally down to answer questions. So hit us up on email. If you don't remember hello@porterloves.com, just go to the website. There's the emails there, the contact form is there, like DM us on Instagram. Like there's there's multiple ways to reach us.
Probably too many. at this
Yeah,
point.
please don't message us on Facebook. That's our only like
Oh, man.
but thank you so much to everyone who came, asked great
Yes.
questions. We are again so grateful to our partners, the CBA and the Glass Center. Katie from the CBA is in Western North Carolina this week doing a very
Oh,
cool
yeah.
program where they are basically like expanding sort of their CBA knowledge to the community down there. And Western North Carolina is where Asheville is. And there's a really fantastic creative
love
community there.
Asheville,
Yeah, we have
yeah.
Asheville's my heart city. So again, thank you to everyone. Thank you to our partners, and we will be in touch after this. We'll send that follow-up email, and just thank you so much.
Good night, everyone.